Michigan voters will decide whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana on Election Day. 9 other states have already done that. So rather than speculate what might happen here, we asked our sister stations in those states to tell us what happened there. We begin a 10-part series tonight looking at Oregon. It's one of the first states to legalize recreational marijuana. And as Dan Tilkin reports, it's brought a lot of money in for schools, police, and mental health programs, but it's also raised concern about the black market.
In the 3 years since recreational marijuana has been for sale in Oregon, tax revenues have far exceeded projections. The state estimated the tax would bring in $35 million a year, but it's ballooned from $20 million to $70 million to more than $80 million, with projections of $90 million next year and $100 million shortly after that. In some states, pro-pot advocates have also argued legal weed would save the state prisons money because fewer people would be locked up. But Oregon hasn't seen those savings because hardly anyone was in an Oregon prison just for marijuana. Only 20 who sold pot to kids. Small amounts of marijuana were decriminalized in Oregon decades ago. Plus, medical marijuana has been legal for 20 years, and thousands were protected from prosecution by getting their medical marijuana cards. Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Colorado have seen an uptick in traffic crashes since recreational pot became legal, according to an insurance industry study. It says crashes are up by as much as 6% compared with neighboring states that haven't legalized marijuana.
Well, we continue our special 6 News at 6 10-part series now as we explore how the legalization of marijuana impacted other states so voters here can be more informed on that ballot issue next month.
And tonight we'll hear from KSEE in Fresno, California, a city that put its own pot ban into place after the state approved the legislation.
When voters approved Prop 64 in 2016, recreational use of marijuana became legal in the state of California. The law was set up to allow individual municipalities to have the final say in how they manage the marijuana businesses and how much to tax them. Fresno has continued to ban marijuana businesses, but is on track to possibly allow medical marijuana shops next year. City leaders are split on how the city should manage marijuana.
Fresnans are ready to move beyond this element of the drug war, which isn't working, and move toward a safe, regulated, licensed market here in the city of Fresno.
Tonight, we continue our 10-part series on how legalization has affected states around the country with a report from Alexandra Limon in our D.C. Bureau. She examines the situation there since marijuana was legalized in our nation's capital.
In Washington, D.C., dispensaries sell medical marijuana, but people over 21 can also grow, possess, and give away small amounts of cannabis. Recreational commercial sales are not legal. Adam Eidinger, a pro-marijuana activist, says D.C. got marijuana laws right.
There's no marketing to children when you're growing at home.
Eidinger is one of the activists who helped pass D.C.'s marijuana ballot initiative. He says consumers may not be who you think.
The number one group that's getting a medical marijuana card or buying cannabis at these adult use are people over 50. It is not young people.
Eidinger says there's no evidence in the D.C. metro area that recreational use has increased among kids. Will Jones, with Smart Approaches to Marijuana, a group that opposes the legalization and commercialization of cannabis, agrees.
Now, one of the biggest questions about marijuana legalization is how it will impact impaired driving.
We continue our 10-part series examining legalization across the country with a report from Jay Hebb in Vermont, where officials are concerned about whether legal pot will lead to more deaths on the roads.
Vermont law enforcement officers, DMV officials, and transportation agencies got together at J-Peak Wednesday for the 6th annual Vermont Highway Safety Alliance Conference.
Every person in that room believes that we can reduce highway fatalities and injuries.
Their goal, 0 highway fatalities by 2050. Williston Police Chief Patrick Foley says he believes recreational marijuana and the legal sale of it will affect many facets of society, including drivers.
We need a good roadside test. And so we all got to work and try to come up with something that's reasonable.
Chief Foley presented research that he's collected by tracking other states' legalization journeys over the past 10 years. He predicts that Vermonters could see an increase in DUIs involving drugs and fatalities, and that the cost to society will outweigh the revenue earned through sales.
Now let's continue our 10-part series exploring how marijuana legalization has impacted other states around the United States.
As Maureen Kelly reports from San Francisco, Proposal 1 could have some benefits for Michigan's tourism industry.
It didn't take long for spliffs to get sparked on board the tour bus that picked up a group of day trippers going on a CannabisTours.com excursion.
Thank you for being on the Wine and Weed Tour with Cannabis Tours. I know that we have a birthday here today.
While the chauffeur sits in a sealed off and therefore smoke-free cab, the tour guides join in the party atmosphere, indulging in cannabis concentrates. The owner of this Colorado-based business has expanded the touring company into 8 different locations where pot is now legal to consume.
Here's a catch. Even if pot is legal at the state level, it's still against federal law.
And that means banks have to be careful since they follow federal rules and don't want to be caught dealing with drug money.
So Patrick Walker shows us how they're handling all that green in Las Vegas.
The reason I'm speaking out about it is because I want everyone to know that it's getting out of hand.
Priscilla Vilchis has made a name for herself, getting her foot in the door in Nevada's booming marijuana industry, and is a nationally known advocate. But that led to executives from her longtime personal bank, which she does not want to name at this point, to tell her attorney her business was no longer wanted.
They said I became a high-risk client. Shortly after, they asked me to close my accounts.
Banks largely do not do business with cannabis-related companies because marijuana is illegal under federal law, so accepting money is akin to money laundering.
Well, we now continue our 10-part series exploring the impact of marijuana legalization in other states across our country.
Now, Michigan isn't the only state considering legalization this year. North Dakota has a similar ballot issue.
As Alexis Arthur reports, that could force some drug-sniffing dogs into retirement.
Hunter is a canine with the Berthold Police Department. According to his owner and police chief Al Schmidt, Hunter is a single-purpose canine, which means he is trained to find marijuana. But if the measure passes, Hunter would lose his purpose.
Hunter would basically have to be retired.
But we wouldn't have much grounds to use them on at that point.
Klug says it can cost upwards of $20,000 to train and purchase a police dog, a cost typically paid with tax dollars. If law enforcement has to retire its current canines because they are trained for a marijuana scent, there could easily be more costs if the dogs get replaced.
Colorado legalized recreational marijuana in 2014, but the debate rages on over whether or not it was a smart move.
As reporter John Madden tells us tonight, for many small towns, it has been a financial savior, but others still ask, at what cost?
Welcome to Parachute, a town that is home to a little more than 1,000 people.
Totally deteriorating. Dangerous to play on, really, because it was just crumbling so much.
Some of whom love to play basketball.
So it's really in response to demand and the idea that people can just keep playing even when school's not in session.
What was once an unsafe court is now a smooth, expanded one with a few upgrades.
We did the lights, so this lights up almost like daytime.
Which makes it easier to see excitement, something which town manager Stuart MacArthur witnesses firsthand. It's all part of an ongoing process to take the town of Parachute to the TOP.
You got behind you the parking lot, which incorporates trailer parking. But the big thing is right here is our ramp. We've been able to add another full-time officer. Plus, we are sharing a school resource officer.
But things were not always looking up for Parachute.
Maybe one cop, one admin, town clerk, town manager, and one public works. It was just not looking good at all.
Until one big element changed for this small community.
Welcome to the Green Joint. How you doing today?
Your total with everything is 408.
On a busy day, we can see up to 100, 150 customers of foot traffic walking through this door.
Brian Sullivan, Vice President of Retail Operations at the Green Joint, a marijuana dispensary in Parachute, stays busy helping customers locally, but also from across the nation.
We see a lot of East Coasters, a lot of people from California, from Texas. Utah's a really big one.
A portion of that 15% marijuana sales tax goes back to the town.
I hate to use the word savior, but it saves the town overall.
Which can go towards matching grants that are used for improving the quality of life.
As we start developing a higher quality of life, it starts attracting people to live here and to start business here and to work here.
The economic benefit is a big part for those who support legalization, but those who oppose it say there's something more important, something you can't put a price on.
The influence of anything, whether it's marijuana, alcohol, whatever, is not good for our society. We're losing too many good people.
Tom Gorman is the director of the Rocky Mountain High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area. That criticism stems from the number of fatal car accidents where the driver tested positive for cannabis, which has increased from 55 in 2013 to 139 in 2017, according to the Colorado Division of Criminal Justice.
You could talk about bringing money into the state, but for those people who died or in the hospital or got rushed to the ER, I think that's blood money.
According to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, 20% of people that use cannabis admit to driving after using marijuana, something which the Colorado State Patrol notices more of while on the road.
There's been more arrests with marijuana.
The total number of DUI citations issued by CSP with marijuana as the impairing substance increased from 12% in 2014 to 15% in 2017. So while both sides agree to disagree, there is a consensus on one thing: how to form your opinion.
I would say, first of all, get informed. Please don't listen to spin and rhetoric.
I'd say be open, get some education. A lot of this is informational education stuff that we're teaching and that we're providing for our customers.
Whether that's in the court of public opinion or the basketball one. Here for you in Grand Junction, Colorado, John Madden, 6 News.
Well, if it passes, Proposal 1 would make it legal for anyone in Michigan to use marijuana.
But just like tobacco, you won't be able to smoke it anywhere you want.
We now continue our 10-part series on legalization across the country with a look at how California manages marijuana smoke.
Marijuana may be legal in California, but that doesn't mean you can smoke anytime and anywhere you want.
So basically anywhere that you cannot smoke tobacco, you cannot smoke cannabis.
You cannot smoke, vape, eat, or consume marijuana in public places, and landlords and property owners can ban the use of it on their properties. However, you are legally allowed to consume cannabis on private property.
Your home, someone else's home where you're a guest, a business establishment that might have a private smoking area.
Well, next week, Michigan voters will decide whether to legalize recreational marijuana in our state.
If that happens, recreational pot could become a big business here in Michigan. But what would that new industry look like?
Tonight, we'll be wrapping up our 10-part series on legal pot across the United States with a look at how legalization affected the business of marijuana in Colorado.
Marijuana market continues to skyrocket.
I got a gold ounce for $55 after tax, so it's worth it.
Even more so now with the possibility of 2 more states legalizing the recreational use of cannabis.
Cannabis has tremendous benefits. It's a miracle plant in my personal opinion.
Marijuana experts say both big businesses and small mom and pop shops dominate the industry.
If you're good at what you do and you're well respected and diligent operator, I think that you can definitely coexist in this industry.
I think that there is room for all sizes of organizations, and it really depends on the business model of the individual organization.
Strawberry Fields has 4 locations across Colorado, a small business compared to Native Roots, who has 20 locations across the state and is expanding into Canada. The mom and pop shop opened its doors in 2009, started by 2 brothers who invested every cent of their own money into their company.
It can be tough for people who have to have their own working capital. A lot of banks won't really give out loans. Well, you could find the right investor to kind of, assist in that.
They say they're not intimidated by the bigger companies, saying both sides have to abide by the same rules, regulations, and taxes.
We're not really too worried with anything that could kind of come our way. We have a really great team. We have competent people.
As the industry continues to blossom, both sides are confident the competition will stay equal.
There has been some consolidation, and it has enlarged some of the companies. But again, I think that there's a balance that's able to be struck, and I think that there are opportunities still for new and emerging businesses.
A lot of talented teams and operators here in Colorado, and we have nothing but respect for all of the teams and operators.
If you would like to find out more information on any of the candidates running in our state's big races or the big proposals on the upcoming ballot, just click the 18 button right there on the right side of our webpage.